Greetings, YouTubers. My name is Frederick Lopez, and you're on a special crossover episode of my two segments, PC/DC, in which I talk about anything and everything politically correct about DC Comics, and my other segment, Movie Review. So today is going to be a movie review of a DC film, and more specifically, a DC animated film. In anticipation for Batman the Killing Joke, I'm going to be going over some of my favorite animated films of the past. Today I'm going to be reviewing Batman Year One, based on the graphic novel by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli, Batman Year One from the 80s. Now, the graphic novel was made early on. The graphic novel was made after the success of Batman The Dark Knight Returns, in which Frank Miller did. He also drew it, but he just didn't want to draw this one. He wanted to just write this one, so he decided, since he did the Omega of Batman's career, he wanted to do the Alpha, the beginning, the origin, the first year, hence Year One. So instead of drawing, he just stuck to the writing and got David Mazzucchelli to do the artwork, which is amazing artwork. And I must say, the graphic novel on itself is one of the best, not only just Batman stories, but really more so, it's one of the best, if not the best, Jim Gordon story. He's not commissioner, he's not lieutenant, he is just Sergeant Gordon. And the film follows it pretty closely, but just like the graphic novel, the film here, which came out in 2011, the same day as Batman Arkham City, if I remember correctly. Although I got this later for $4.99 at Best Buy when Dark Knight Rises came out. The film follows the graphic novel pretty closely, almost exactly in some parts. Batman Year One stars Ben McKenzie as Bruce Wayne / Batman, Bryan Cranston as Jim Gordon, Elijah Dushku as Selina, John Polito as Commissioner Loeb, Alex Rocco as Falcone, Katie Sackhoff as Detective Essen, Jeff Bennett as a voice of Alfred, Steve Blum as Stan, Gray DeLisle is Barbara Gordon and Vicky Vale, Robin Atkins Downs is Harvey Dent, Fred Tatasciore is Detective Flass. It's directed by Sam Liu and Laura Montgomery. Sam Liu and Laura Montgomery do a lot of the animated features, such as All-Star Superman, Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, Superman Batman Public Enemies, Wonder Woman, Superman Doomsday, and Green Lantern First Flight. So basically, it starts off, Commissioner Gordon, or Jim Gordon, he's basically Gordon, he starts off and he's taking a train to Gotham. He just moved. He got transferred to GCPD. Supposedly you find out later that he ratted out a dirty cop and because of that was transferred, but is now in deeper with other corrupt police and in just a corrupt city. So Gordon arrives at Gotham with his wife, who is pregnant, and it's him starting out. But at the same time, Bruce Wayne has returned to Gotham after his exile, kind of similar to Batman Begins. And this film, in the graphic novel, Batman Begins took a lot of elements from this story. But pretty much, it starts off, Jim Gordon's there, he realizes how corrupt the police are, Detective Flass is his partner, and they're just really kind of just scumbags. He's a good cop, but like they see that he doesn't have the strong heart to be corrupt and play by their rules. So in a way, he kind of becomes a threat, and he has to face the corruption with all the stuff he is doing as a police officer in Gotham. And then we see Batman's story, and Bruce Wayne is wanting to become a vigilante. He has the skills, but it's not the right time. So we get to see his story throughout this first year of becoming the Batman we all know and love, of becoming the Dark Knight. And he just dresses up. You get to see a brief encounter with Selina Kyle and Holly, the girl she hangs out with, which Dark Knight Rises took a lot of stuff from that as well. And anyway, pretty much from a great epic scene, he wonders what to do. It's just not working, just fighting crime. He gets injured really badly, and then he needs motivation. He asks his father, "What do I do?" And a bat crashes through the window, and that's when he gets the inspiration to become the Batman. And it's still very early on. He's still very amateur. He doesn't have all the gadgets. And he's still very vulnerable as far as a suit. It's not like the armored suit. It's much like the earlier suits. And one great thing about this is, in the film, as well as the graphic novel, you can see where this is the early genesis of the Batman you see later on in The Dark Knight Returns, another story wonderfully done by Frank Miller. And, yeah. So then it gets to Gordon, not only dealing with the corruption, but dealing with the Batman. The corrupt police work for this guy called the Roman, and it's Carmine Falcone. And Batman is wanting to take down Carmine Falcone. And Gordon's kind of split. He's just like, this guy's a criminal, but he's doing good. And I'm a police officer, but I work for police officers who are basically like hired killers upon one another in the city. So it's like he's split. You get to see his struggle in this first year, and you really get to delve in deep with the history and just like the psychology of Jim Gordon. And besides Selena Kyle's appearance, you also get to see early Harvey Dent before his Two-Face, and eventually both their paths cross. And it's pretty much the setup of the usual relationship between James Gordon and the Batman. The start of the Batman, how he is in the comics. And that's all I'm giving away, because you should really see the movie, and more so, read the graphic novel first. The animation is done brilliantly. The directing's done well in addition, I must say, but the animation, it stays very close to the comics, almost scene by scene, exactly, just like storyboards, exact images of the graphic novel. And this was originally released in 4 issues, but then was later condensed to a graphic novel. But the certain blues and dark colors and then light colors are there. It's real gritty too, but it's kind of more clean than the graphic novel art. It's not exactly, even though it looks like it. It's a little bit more smooth, and there's also some CGI in there to add a little bit more realism and motion during car chases and stuff that really add a lot. I like this movie a lot. It is a well-made animated film. My only 2 complaints, which is minor, but I feel like if you've read the graphic novel, then you can watch this and it's faithfully adapted with a little bit of extra stuff added. For instance, you just hear about Vicky Vale in the graphic novel, but you actually get to see her at the beginning of the film, and then there's some just a little bit extra stuff that's just added in, but nothing's really taken away too much. But it just stays too close, which is good and also kind of bad, because it's kind of like it moves really fast, but it just appears just a little bland. But not in a bad way, more so in a way that you know what's going to come. There's nothing that's going to really surprise you if you've read the graphic novel. It's beautiful, and I love it when they get stuff done right and adapted right, but I just wish they just adapted it into a film on its own without just taking images from the graphic novel entirely to the point where it's just a carbon copy. Because in a way, I almost feel like if it was going to be that way, I would get a better experience through the graphic novel than I do the film. Even though it's a great adapted animated film. And then Ben McKenzie does a good Batman as far as a younger Batman. He's kind of more like the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns, of course. I can imagine like him going to Peter Weller later on, especially with the narration and stuff. But for me, it's not among the best. I kind of like Kevin Conroy's, of course, because he is the voice of Batman, but I also like Roger Craig Smith and what like Christian Bale and them did, and Bruce Greenwood, where it's a good Batman, but something about it just feels a little bit off. Elijah Dushku's okay as Selena Kyle. She's good for the time she has. John Polito plays a great scumbag as Commissioner Loeb. The other voice actors are good, but the standout in this, just like the character in the story, is Bryan Cranston as Gordon. Oh my God! I wish they got Bryan Cranston in live action. That's how good he is in this. He is Gordon, you know, and you can imagine just the way he looks in real life, and then just as Gordon, you really get to sympathize with him and just kind of root for him as a character. You're in his shoes throughout the story of this, and you really get to be in the mindset of Gordon and all the craziness that's going around in Gotham, along with the upcoming surgence of the Batman. The score by Christopher Drake is great. I like the score. I like the rendition of New Dawn Fades at the end. Many people may remember that version, the cover version of the original by Moby in the movie Heat. It's a great version, but Christopher Drake also did an Justice Gods Among Us soundtrack, as well as Batman Arkham Origins. So he's done a lot of stuff in both DC animation and video games as well. Overall, I would give the film a 4 out of 5 and an 8 out of 10. And if I had to give it a letter grade, I'd probably say an A minus because it's perfect. It's good. But something about it's just lacking to me, just a little bit. If you've read the graphic novel, but if you haven't, this would be a very intriguing Gordon story. Like I said, creation of the Batman, and there's a lot of elements from Batman Begins that they borrowed from this. The ending with there's this guy who calls himself the Joker, him being gone from Gotham and returning, Gordon being stuck with Detective Flash and like that whole dynamic of the corrupt police. Commissioner Loeb's a lot more corrupt in this story than any other incarnations, and then as well, they had elements of the siege scene where he's like ambushed, the SWAT's after Batman, and it gets a sonar to call the bats taken from Batman Year One. So there's a lot of elements that inspire, but it's a great story, and it's a perfect alpha, like I said, to The Dark Knight Returns Omega by Frank Miller, and it brought it back to kind of like a dark and gritty realistic story for the 80s. I mean, it was made after Dark Knight Returns, but it has a feeling of like Batman 1989 or like the Christopher Nolan movies as far as it feeling like it's in the real world, that it's like living and breathing, and it's a good story in that regard. And I kind of wish that the show Gotham was just based on this story of Year One. That would have made a good show. But yeah, that's just my quick thoughts on the film for this PCDC. And yeah, 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10, A minus. It just feels like it's lacking a little bit if you've read the graphic novel, but that doesn't make it a bad film at all. It's one of the better made films, and I respect it for being so faithful to the source material. Till next time, this is Frederick Lopez, PCDC Movie Review. Go check out Batman Year One and enjoy out there.